Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Victoria Pardini, and I am a program associate at the Kennan Institute. Thank you all for joining us for a very special presentation today to discuss the voices of Ukrainian, Belarusian, and Russian women in the anti-war movement. I want to also thank our co-sponsors for today's conversation, the Global Europe Program and the Maternal Health Initiative. As always, we encourage you to stay up to date on the latest Kennan Institute events and publications by visiting our website and subscribing to our two blogs, Focus Ukraine and The Russia File, as well as our podcasts, Kennan X and The Russia File. You can visit our Hindsight Upfront Ukraine collection page on the Wilson website for the latest news and analysis focused on the war in Ukraine. And a reminder to our guests, if you'd like to ask a question during the course of this conversation, you can submit it via email to kennan@wilsoncenter.org, via Twitter @Kennan Institute, or on our Facebook page at any time. Please include your name and affiliation when sending questions. Since we have a large panel today, I will begin by introducing each of the speakers before they begin, and we'll give them a chance to each deliver some brief remarks before we turn to questions. Let's first start with Yulia Sergeyeva. Yulia is a Ukrainian attorney and human rights activist, and she is also the founder of the NGO Transparent Choice and the author of the Svidoma project. Yulia, please.
Time of the day, everyone who joined, because I know that we're from different time zones, US, Europe, and this is extremely important that the whole world is sticking together at this difficult moment around Ukraine, because I'm sure that this is a number one theme in if not all, then most majority of the countries. As for Ukraine, I would like to say thank you to everyone who supports us in this difficult moment. Indeed, it's the hardest time in all the 31 years of our independence. Well, actually not. It's the hardest time since the World War II. And someone might not like what I will be saying today, but I want to be precisely sharp, straightforward, and truthful, because the world deserves to know the truth, and knowing the truth is one of the ways, and spreading the word is one of the ways to stop this genocide of the Ukrainian nation. So it is important for the world, for everyone, for civilians, for citizens, for politicians, for companies to call a spade a spade. So what is happening in Ukraine? No, it's not a special military operation in Donbass aimed at demilitarization and denazification of our nation. It is a full-scale war on the whole territory of Ukraine. There is no safe place, city, village, or town, and all kinds of missiles, rockets, and weapons are used on the land, in the water, and in the air. Protection of Russians on the territory of Ukraine is a lie. Our Ukrainian need for protection from the Russians and from Russia is a lie. That only war infrastructure is being demolished is a lie, and that only military people get killed is a lie, and that we are ourselves bombing our cities like Mariupol is a big, ugly, disgusting lie. Figures. Please, I'd like to slides. Figures better than words, please. The first slide. So 27 days of war, 2,361 civil victims. This is only 3 days ago from the UN nation information, which rises every day. And I must say that this number of victims is much more because many people are still under constructions and under the bombed buildings, and they cannot be reached by the rescuers. Among them, 902 people killed, among them 121 children, girls and boys, 39 kids and adults, the gender of which is still identified. 1,459 people are here. Next slide, please. Number of civil objects destroyed. You can see that this figure demonstrates that actually the whole territory of Ukraine was under and is continued to be under attacks. So more than 4,431 houses were destroyed, 135 medical buildings, 548 schools, 8 cultural objects, almost 5,000 work rights, that was the previous slide, were registered in the system, among which shooting people in the civil protests, standing in the lines for food. Please, you can move to next slides while I'm talking to demonstrate these figures. Just please continue with the slides at your own mode. Cars, so shooting humanitarian corridors, cars with white flags, shooting rescuers, ambulance and fire cars, raping, use of prohibited weapons. Just this night, phosphorus bombs prohibited by the Geneva Convention were thrown in the $100 billion. More than 53% of Ukrainians lost their jobs. Talking about refugees, well, actually being one of them at the moment, well, let's call it, because I had also to escape, to evacuate my country with my small kid. If the slides are finished, you can just return to my speaking. Refugees, according to the UN, and the number is still rising, it's 3.5 million people already, among which 1.4 million children and 160,000 foreigners. And more than that, 6.5 million people were internally relocated within Ukraine. Regarding Russia, the official figures in Ukraine are 15,600 people, which were dead. I don't know, the girls will tell after what are the official figures your governments give. But these people, they were someone's husbands, someone's brothers, someone's sons, and I'm very sure that it is in the Russian and Belarusian mothers' hands, women's hands, to stop these men, to stop men from killing our people. So that's why today's conversation is very important. What can be done? Well, it is, yes, the regimes of Putin and Lukashenko are to be blamed, but every citizen of Russia and Belarus should have an active position. Otherwise, not protesting and not keeping silent is also sharing this crime against our nation, our brother nation, which, before that date we were. So all the citizens have to be active. I'm talking about now, the mechanisms are pretty much the same, I think, as for women who can act from abroad, as for our foreign colleagues, and for those people who support Ukraine, want to support Ukraine around the world, and as for the Russians and Belarusians inside the countries. So the only rising the critical mass of people who are unsatisfied with the regimes will work. You have to speak at every place, at your own community, at your society. Speak and spread the word. I know it's difficult. I'm very grateful for the women today who stand here and who are not afraid to speak out. I know about the repressions. I know about how hard it is to speak in Russia and Belarus, but yes, it will take time. Unfortunately, it will take victims, it will take time, but this is the only way to change the situation, to be active as mass. So rallies, massive protests continue in Europe, and helping refugees, providing humanitarian help, being helpful, everyone at their own place, doing their little small things or doing their big things, depending on what you can do, and talking to politicians, signing petitions. And I hope that women's voices will be heard, our voices will be heard, and that we will be able to provide a working mechanism for the protection of those many millions of people who already suffered and who will suffer if this doesn't stop. The number will rise, and I'm not. Russia is already paying for what the regime did. Economic fall, every citizen suffers, and it will end up in the repatriation and recompensation to our nation, as the Germans are still paying for the Nazis. And it's about the opinion that Russians and Belarusians will suffer abroad, the division toward toward the treatment towards the citizens. So I think that every citizen of Russia and Belarus can already feel how hard it is nowadays to be part of the nation, which is holding a massive, ugly, disgusting, killing thousands war in the 21st century. So and now I would just like to have a minute, like at least a few seconds of silence for those who died in this war. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yulia, for the very poignant presentation. Let's go next to Marina Mantusova. Marina Mantusova is a policy and anti-war activist. She is also the founder of Women Independence Day Initiative and a co-founder of the Belarusian Women in White protest movement. Marina, please.
Thanks. I have always believed in the power of women, but today, more than ever, I also believe in the power of sisterhood. I see how Ukrainians, Belarusians, and Russian women help each other every day. I will not to say that that war is terrible and cannot be justified by anything. I think this position unites all people here. But I would like to note that there are not absolutely all Russian who started the war. It was unleashed by very specific people whose names you know. This war is not supported by absolutely all Belarusians who are silent. Belarus has been under military occupation for 2 years now. It is not Belarusian troops that are attacking from the territory of Belarus, but Lukashenko's. The war was unleashed not by absolutely all Russians, but by a specific Putin regime. Today we have published a very large website for refugee women with children. It contains the most important information from 17 countries, contacts of foundation and organization that help refugees today. A team of 17 volunteers helped me create the site, 15 of them women from Russia. For this, they are threatened with an article of high treason, but they continue to help. 800 people were arrested at the last protest in Belarus, which is a lot for Belarus, especially after 2 years of state violence and torture in prisons. Belarusians donate blood and help with humanitarian. Belarusians stand on the borders of Lithuania, Poland, and Moldova, helping refugees from Ukraine. Belarusians replace fees or crowdfunding platforms in favor of Ukrainians and Ukraine. It will not be fair to say that absolutely all Belarusians are silent, or that absolutely all Russians support this war. It is very profitable for dictatorial regimes to produce fakes that Russian students are being expelled from European universities. Belarusian citizens are beaten on the border with Poland and Lithuania. They talk from TV every day that the whole world hates absolutely all Belarusians and Russians. No, we must prevent such words. All of Europe, all of the world hates only the dictatorial regimes of Putin and Lukashenko. The whole world hates only war because there are no winners in war, and women lose doubly, despite the fact that it's women who bear the most responsibility and problems. Women are subjected to violence, women fight, women heal, women bury their loved ones, women take care of children and old parents, women create non-profit organizations and help in everything. Now we're again focusing on women. We talk to the mothers of soldiers and try to do everything so that they do not allow men from Belarus to go to war. We teach them to put up leaflets and send messages to military wives. We communicate with soldiers' mothers. We come with new types of protests every day. We even write prayers, oh my God. We do everything possible and impossible. And I hope when all this is over, all our countries will be free and they will finally be ruled by women. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marina. Next, let's hear from Elisa Greenspan. Elisa is a volunteer for By Help, which is now part of the By Soul Foundation, which was created in response to the violence following protests in 2020. In her role, Elisa was a coordinator and specifically worked on cases of torture and violence toward women that were happening in 2020. She is a certified advocate for the Sexual Assault and Violence Intervention Program. Elisa, please.
Hi, everyone. First of all, let me thank you, all of you, for the opportunity to speak up on behalf of Belarusian women, as I consider myself. So my name is Elisa, and I'm 32 years old, and I grew up in Minsk, Belarus. And I moved to Israel when I was 21, and I have been living in the United States for the last 6 years. Since 1994, in Belarus, we have had one president, Alexander Lukashenko, which I do not consider even as a human being. Almost 2 years ago, in August 2020, after another rigged election, my people started to protest peacefully on the streets of our cities. As of March 9th, 2020, United Nations report on massive repressions in Belarus in 2020 shows that over 13,000 people were arrested during the 5 first days of August 2020. And many of them were beaten and transferred police station and pre-trial detention centers. The United Nations findings also confirmed the rape of detainees and the use of other forms of sexual and gender-based violence against both men and women. Many of my friends were volunteering outside of jails, mostly women, to help and comfort people after they were released. And for that, my friends, and mostly women from 20 to 35, were arrested too. I immediately signed up that time to be a volunteer for the By Help Foundation, which is now a part of By Solidarity Foundation and now mainly focuses on humanitarian help for Ukrainian people. As of today, there are over 1,100 political prisoners in Belarus, and 10 people died during the protest. And I believe that history has a tendency to repeat itself. And today, the same thing is happening in Russia. And it feels like dictators were just practicing in Belarus to see how many people they can imprison, how many people they can injure or even kill with no consequences whatsoever. I want to show you something. This is my friend. Her name is Sasha Zvereva. And she was forced to leave Belarus in August 2020. And she had two choices, to leave or to be kidnapped and imprisoned. She is a girlfriend of Etik Babarika, who was imprisoned 2 years ago for being a son of Viktor Babarika, who decided to run for president. They're both serving time in jail for being honest and brave people. As my goal, I want Europe to stop being so concerned and take actions against this dictatorship. And those sanctions should not be against the Belarusian people, or especially women and kids who were fighting against the regime, who are still fighting to end this aggression towards all of us. Like my friends who decided to stay and now might be facing trials, being imprisoned for over 6 years, and cannot even apply for any kind of help, for any kind of visa, because of all these sanctions. And I want the world to know that according to Chatham House, 97% of Belarusian people do not support the participation of their armed forces in the war against Ukraine. I would also like to mention that 97% of Belarusians voted for Svetlana Tikhanovskaya in 2020. We will never support Putin in this world. More and more Belarusians go to fight in Ukraine, on the Ukrainian side, and try to put an end to Putin's era. They say there are 5 stages of grief, and I'm still very, very angry. Long live Belarus, glory to Ukraine. Живе Belarus, slava Ukraini. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elisa. Before I move to introduce our next speaker, I want to remind you that if you'd like to ask a question during the course of this conversation, you can submit it via email to kennan@wilsoncenter.org, via Twitter @Kennan Institute, or on our Facebook page at any time. Please do include your name and affiliation when sending your questions. Next, we have Elena Servataz. Elena is a French-Russian journalist and a Europe correspondent for Echo of Moscow Radio, an independent station that has been shut down by Russian authorities after the beginning of the war. She also is head of press for the True Russia organization. Elena, please.
Thank you for having me. I hope you can hear me well. Yeah. Yes, I would like to speak first about True Russia. It's very maybe bizarre while the world is looking on Ukraine today, but it's very important to see those Russians who are not agree with the policy of Vladimir Putin, of this war crime he's committing today. There are 3 people of Russian culture: Boris Akunin, who is a writer, a dancer, Mikhail Baryshnikov, he's living in the United States, and economist Sergei Guriev, who decided to build this foundation through Russia to raise money for the Ukrainian refugees, because their main idea is you can't start and build a new Russia before you help the Ukrainians who are now under Putin's bomb. So I'm 38 years old. I'm raising 5 kids. And of course, I could not just watching all these atrocities. As the Western world absorbs President Putin's crimes in Ukraine, Europe feels nervous after hearing threats of a nuclear strike. Russia's own propaganda already begins having doubts as to whether starting this special operation was the right choice, but it still tries to convince Russians that Nazis and drug addicts, as what they call it, have taken over in Ukraine. And it looks like Putin genuinely believes that Ukraine was preparing to create weapons of mass destruction aimed, obviously, at Russia. This is a lie. You should also see the images of Russian children who have been made to pose carrying St. George ribbons and drawings with this letter Z, swastikas, as we call it now, which has become a symbol of the country of military campaign in Ukraine. This is done with the aim to prove to one person in particular that Russian people fully approve and supported his action. This is a lie too. Until recently, we Russian journalists have done all we could to inform Russians about the terrible war Putin has started against Ukraine. My colleagues who remain in Russia will not be able to continue that work. The Russian state has de facto criminalized the journalist profession. maybe you have seen, I hope you have seen. If you haven't, please try to visit Novaya Gazeta website, and there is a great report from Yelena Kostyuchenko, who is a woman. She was showing this atrocity of war. It's very important in Nikolaev, and but hundreds, if not maybe thousands, of independent journalists have already left the country. And now, after the protest by Maria Arsennikova that you all saw, a redactor of Channel 1, who dared to show up with a no to war poster during live broadcast and now risk 10 years jail time, state media say their staff leaving too. We recently saw yesterday a former Paris-based Europe correspondent, to be sure, for Russian state-controlled broadcaster Channel 1 as well, Zhana Galakova, who also was explaining how she worked in Russia. When I spoke to my bosses, I said, I cannot do this job anymore. And I left Channel 1, especially because the war started, she said. So we saw and we see a mass exodus and immigration of journalists, a lot of women, and most of independent media being shut down, as Echo Moscow, where I was working, when I used to work. Their seats blocked, even paying an VPN to access them has become nearly impossible after Visa and MasterCard seized operation in Russia. And Putin claims that in many Western countries, people are being harassed only for being from Russia, in attempt to draw analogies to anti-Jewish program in 1930s in Germany. This is yet another lie, but he might be right in a way. For us Russians, life will indeed become more difficult. It already has. If not us, who is guilty for Russia becoming a country where the president openly threatens the world with nuclear war. And it was indeed us who have been unable to prevent the war that is already happening. In my opinion, being a true Russian today means not to displaying these St. George ribbons and swastikas everywhere, but proving the rest of the world that Russia is not only Putin, that there is another normal Russia, the true Russia, that there is enough of us, and that we are a decent force in society and we can speak out for ourselves. And Putin would probably be horrified if he learned how many people in the world who speak Russian and who do not want to be associated with a Russian Federation who bomb residential buildings, children's hospital, and maternity wards in neighboring country in their name. The world does not associate them with Putin either, just as Joseph Brodsky, Sergei Dovlatov, Rudolf Nureyev, Igor Sikorsky, Anna Pavlova, and many others were not associated with the Soviet regime. And thus, the writer Boris Akunin and dancer and artistic director Mikhail Baryshnikov and economist Sergei Goreev launched this project called True Russia, which already provides help to Ukrainian refugees, as I said. And there is something True Russia can not be built without. And what I would underline is that the organizations they have created through Russia will provide help to Ukrainian refugees. A donation campaign is already underway to their website. We raised more than $1 million in 1 week and a half, and it's still ongoing, the campaign. And at a later time, it's also ended to help Russians who felt repression at their country, because few will help them outside Russian diaspora, already established throughout the world. For example, this will include journalists who have left Russia and can become a force for peace. I believe that journalists really can become a force for peace, and we can help Russians decide on their position in this war. After 2 decades of propaganda, brainwashing, many people inside Russia support the war only because they know little of what is actually happening there. They need more information, not less. And today, Russian journalists work tirelessly to make their way through the information blockade set up by Putin. But they need a legal basis to continue their work. And it's very important. Journalists from Russia need a special status to be granted asylum on the basis of their profession, because in their home countries, they face repression, arrest, and crackdown. What they need is to have the possibility to keep working. The rest they can do themselves. Exciting political asylum procedure will unfortunately not be sufficient to solve this problem. So to solve this problem, this is a lengthy and costly process, often requiring the applicant to live in a dedicated facility for refugees. It restrains their freedom of movement and reduces their ability to do their job. And many journalists may also need a financial assistance. For a big part, it can be provided by Russians already living abroad, but these free Russians who oppose the war are unable to provide journalists with legal status, allowing them to settle abroad and leave Russia, where they may be killed and jailed. So that's why it's important for governments and foreign ministry of all the country of a free world to help Russian journalists by creating a specific status of professional asylum. This would allow exiled journalists to settle abroad and to obtain the right to employment. Maybe university and think tanks may provide them grants by creating dedicated program. NGOs will find the ways to create and to have access to VPN services and etc. But it's very important for them not to be just in frame in this asylum status, but to continue to work and to provide information about this atrocity happening in Ukraine, in Belarus. And I think that we have to think about these possibilities as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elena. Next, we have Alyona Popova. Alyona is currently a Glina Starovoidova Fellow at the Kennan Institute, where she is working on voter privacy and autonomy in the digital era. She is also a Russian lawyer, feminist, politician, and anti-war activist. She is the founder of the initiative Women for New Principles of Global Peace and Security. Alyona, please.
Hello, everyone. And first, I would like to thank you all for participating. And, it is too hard for me to speak here today because Julia's tears are my tears, as we have more than 30% marriages among Russians and Ukrainians. So among all our marriages, 30% marriages are the marriages among Russians and Ukrainians. So 1/3 of my family are Ukrainian, and a part of my family are in Belarus. So all of us are involved in this crazy war. And what we were thinking about for this 3 weeks period is how to stop it. So I strongly believe in our sisterhood, and I'm totally sure that if we unite, all the females project, feminist projects, and women initiatives, we can win. The major questions that we are thinking about now is not just how to stop this crazy war, but how to help refugees. This is the first question for all of us. How to fundraise some money for the projects like Help to Live, for example. This project was founded by the people from Russia and Belarus, and as I understood, some people who is from Ukraine are there now. So they have more than 300 volunteers from all over the world who help Ukrainian refugees to leave this war space. Safely leave this war space. So they need money, and how to fundraise this money. So we should be vocal by the voices of females. As you know, in my country, our government launched a lot of crazy initiatives. For example, if you name war as war, so you use this term, war, you can be imprisoned up to 15 years. So Marina Ovsyannikova, who was mentioned by Liana Servitas, She is now can be sentenced up to 15 years, and I'm not joking, just for her action during this primetime live news show. Her son, he is 17 years old, in his interview told that his mother ruined the life of the whole family. Just look at it, her son, and he is 17 years old, and he is brainwashed by our crazy propaganda. So our social media, all our social media stuff now is blocked by other law that we have. For example, if you use Facebook or Instagram page, you can be named or labeled as an extremist. This is a criminal case, so you can be imprisoned just because you widely use your social media to widespread the information that this war is a real war. So we have three, I think, like really resultive things now. First, we launched the petition for women, peace and security. We did it at the third, I think, like day of this war, and we collected more than 50,000 signatures of real Russians. So it is real signatures. So it's not just surname and name, it's real signatures when people signed by their own against this war. The principles of this petition is devoted to the 1325 resolution, UN resolution, in which it was said that women should be on board. So when anybody discuss any questions in terms of peace and security and devoted to the war, we as women should be on board. By a lot of countries just ignore these principles, and that's why we have this war now. So we are trying to create 5 new principles in which we can play the huge role, and we can decide how to build a peaceful world. So this is a new UN principles devoted, as I mentioned earlier, the 1325 resolution. The other thing that we done is we launched the petition again chartered in our police office in Russia. A lot of females and feminists who participated in our protest actions and rallies in Russia, they were tortured in police. For example, Sasha, she is like Sasha Kalushskih, young lady, she was detained, and when she was sitting in the police office, she was tortured, threatened by the policeman. So he said that, you know, Putin is on our side, so I can kill you, and I not kill, but I can threaten you because you are the enemy of people, and I can have my bonus as usual. So what I need to underline, this bonus our police representatives can grab because they are thinking that they're protecting our country against country enemies. So we are all can be labeled as country enemies because we are against this war. So that petition is really successful because we collected more than 85,000 signatures against torture in our police. And we asked our ombudsman, so she is a lady, her name is Tatiana Maskalkova, to be or to highly participate in these real cases of police torture. I'm not sure if she would like to participate or not, but we asked her to take control of this case because this is highly important for all of us. And you know that the protest actions and all the rallies have female faces, and I'm not joking. So more than 70% of females who are against all this Putin's policy, they highly participate in protest actions. That's why what we need to do is we need to present them status or a temporary protective status and to extract them from our own countries, Belarus, Russia for sure, and not just from Ukraine. I mean, like that we need to protect the Ukrainian refugees for 100%, and it's not a discussable question. But we need to protect the real power that we have now, because women voices are really vocal. And when they apply for any status or visa, sometimes the documents just ignored by council representatives or country representatives, as we are the country who named as aggressors, I mean Russia and Belarus. But our female movement, anti-war movement, are really the only one power that can change a lot. And I'm sure for 100% in my point, because we can unite. We use our sisterhood. We created a special project, self-help chain project, to help people find their jobs, or to open up a lot of information about what's going on in Ukraine. We can use our social media because we are not afraid of it. So I'm using that, and I have 2 notes from our General Prosecutor Office because I use this term war. But I'm okay with that. I need to speak up. And I'm sure that a lot of females from our 2 countries, Russia and Belarus, want to speak up loudly. Today, we would like to announce or to launch our anti-war sisterhood or anti-war female movement. To resume my monologue, I would like to underline that we will create a special resolution with real steps. I think it should be like 5 steps or 6 steps to reach our goals. Our first goal is for sure to stop this war. And I'm really thankful to Yulia that Yulia is with us now, because Yulia is my huge friend and we know each other for a long, long period of time. And she's like my sister, and I'm really suffer because she suffers due to that war. Our second goal is to fulfill our resources and to collect more resources to help grassroots initiatives or internet projects or any kind of projects, sisterhood projects, in which we can help more females from our 3 countries, Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus. Our third goal is to help and to lobby all this documentary stuff for females from Russia and Belarus who have their anti-war views, to protect them and to give them safe space to be vocal. And this is highly important. Our fourth goal is to understand how can we rebuild our 3 countries when this war come to an end, because I'm really sure that it will happen soon, and I'm really sure that our crazy regimes, Putin's and Lukashenko's, will finish us up, as because this is like the final day of this dictatorship because of the resources, and we all understand it. Our fifth goal is to be really vocal in terms of a 1325 resolution, because we would like to be on board when UN, as I mentioned earlier, discuss any questions devoted to peace and security. And I would like to advocate in my own role for the global female treaty, women treaty, and I would like to give a floor to my huge friend, Marina Pislakova-Parker.
Thank you, Alona. First of all, thank you all. It's tough. It's really difficult for me to listen to that, be in a situation where we are. You know, it's true that we are sharing a lot of heritage together. My great-grandfather was a judge in Kherson. And now I see how, you know, this land is getting destroyed. Is really painful. And all of us women that came to speak today, there is also a specific reason for that, because a war in Ukraine have been and will be catastrophic for women and girls across the region. Accounts are horrific, and despite of the profound pain and conflict this conflict has caused, we in the region coming in solidarity. And this is at both a personal level, organizational level. I'm in touch, following my friends who live in Flint, Ukraine, daily on the phone, was very difficult. When one of them finally got on the plane to get here to the United States, I was crying just because I couldn't believe it will happen. And still, in any conflict, in any war, women pay the price to the fullest, because violence that's happening now is on shoulders of women, but also violence that will continue after the war. It will continue escalating in the region, because this is usual aftermath of any war, will be also on shoulders of a lot of women. And this unique solidarity that I see my friends in Ukraine saying to me, listen, it's so important for me that you are checking up on me, that you are making sure I'm still alive. And my heart is breaking every day when I read all of the news and I see what's happening. But making specific steps that we are trying to make, it's just a little bit to contribute to stopping this madness. But it's also part of the bigger picture. Rapes and war, all the crimes that happen as a result of any war, it affects women. Women who protest in Russia, outside of Russia, also hostages of the situation, because those who speak up cannot go back. Those who are inside, they try to go on a quiet picket, get arrested, harassed, threatened. And that is why I am here in solidarity. I want this war to be over. I want all of us to rebuild our societies. We are a force that can do that, and we will do that. We are doing it. But I think we also need to see the bigger picture, that women in the world and now in our region are not protected from violence, any form of violence. What we have today is not enough, and it will not help a lot of victims, survivors, and frontline activists to continue live and feel that we can be free from violence. I've dedicated over 30 years of my life already to try and stop violence against women. And frankly, to me today, seeing what's happening, I mean, yes, it is devastating, but also it brings more commitment from me and makes me more committed to continue speaking up and continue working to make sure that women and girls can live lives free from violence. And one instrument is a new global agreement, new global treaty that would include not only all forms of violence that are not covered today, but also will bring more accountability to states. And it will also include frontline activists who are doing the job of governments very often, but still underfunded, tortured, suppressed, and still continue doing what we are doing. And again, it's just my words of solidarity, gratefulness. And it's you know, we are here from Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine, but I know that women in Moldova, in Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Georgia, Armenia, everywhere are helping our sisters that have to flee their homes, that are forced for various reasons to live their life and have to start all over. And we will all need to heal from that eventually. It will be very challenging, but for the better future of our societies, we are doing what we can do now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marina, and thank you all of you for your very powerful, very important testimonies of what's happening in your country and in the war and the efforts that you're making. We've already received a few questions, but I'll start with my own. A reminder that if you have questions for our panelists, you can send them via email to kennan@wilsoncenter.org. You can tweet at us at Kennan Institute, or you can write on our Facebook page. Elena, I know we don't have you for very much longer, so I'm going to start off with a question for you before you have to go. As a journalist and in the work that you do, what have you found to be particularly effective in working to combat disinformation and this kind of monolith of disinformation, especially coming out of Russia and I'm sure to a similar extent from Belarus regarding the war? And what do you advise to avoid that disinformation?
It's very difficult because when you see this propaganda in such a large scale, you know, each time we publish the report or publish a picture, people inside of Russia, they're saying it's all set up. It's not true. It's not Russian who bombs Mariupol. It's not real people in Belarus who protest. Even in my own family, I have people who are in total disagree in what I'm saying. For them, I can be seen as like a national threat, as someone who lives abroad and follows this Western propaganda. And of course, it's very difficult, but it's not the reason for me to stop writing, to stop exposing those crimes. You know, I was traveling with French President François Hollande in 2013 to Russia to meet Vladimir Putin. And it was very, let's say, funny story at that period because it's the world was different at that time. So I raised a question about, you know, human rights abuses, if France will take action against these human rights abuses by Russian authorities. And at that period, French president said, of course, we will do if there is some thing that we notice, we will underline and we'll discuss with Vladimir Putin. And Vladimir Putin also answered me that being a French journalist, maybe he forgot that I'm Russian by my first nationality, so that I didn't get the electoral process in Russia, so it's very tough and complicated, and that's all. But to be let's say open to the whole world, they put my question on Channel 1, but they cut the part of it when I was exposing human rights abuses, corruption, etc. And they just gave me a part of my question and the full answer of Vladimir Putin, of course. And they said he's not afraid of French journalists. And look how he is responding to her. The day after, I landed to Paris. And my husband at that period, he was working to a European company who has the contracts with a Russian space company, which is Roscosmos. And he was launching rockets from Kourou and Baikonur, which is a Russian space base. And so the chief of Roscosmos is like, I don't know, you have a space agency, the toppest high official call the director of this European Space Agency and ask, do you want this guy still traveling to Russia to work at Baikonur Space Base and to launch his Soyuz in Kourou? If so, please ask him to make his wife shut up. And so it was like kind of intimidation at that period. Of course, I didn't stop. And so, you know, even if you try to deliver the message, they will either change it, either you will have some kind of intimidation, but it's not the reason for us to stop doing this job. That's why I want to advocating for these Russian journalists to have this special status and to continue to expose what's going on in Russia, in Ukraine, and in Belarus.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the work that you're already doing. So now a question kind of more for the rest of the group as well. I'm curious, the initiatives that you've already begun and the work that you've done for anti-war advocacy, how have they been received by your communities, either in country or in your diaspora communities, and especially the work that you do to unify women's voices regardless of nationality, especially when things are very emotional and raw among the different countries. Alyona, maybe you'd like to begin with that.
Yeah, so when we started this, when we launched that petition, many people signed it in a week. So I think that we collected more than 30,000 signatures per week. And after our crazy law was adopted, I mean, like the law in terms of that war is not war, it's a special operation, many females asked me, can you please hide our data and our signatures from the eyewitnesses, as we are afraid of being imprisoned because of this law. And this is like total atmosphere of fear, and yeah, I think like it's a total atmosphere of fear. But many women who signed that petition, they also have signed the petition against torture in police. So why I mention that is that they are not afraid of being punished. This is not about fear. This is about fear for their families, not because of them. So they're fighting for everybody, and they just speak up, they stand up, and they're really vocal, as, for example, Marina Ovsyannikova did. When she had her action with, you know, like this piece of paper with the name of No War, my grandmother was watching a TV show, and she called me. So my grandmother is 90 years old, so she's really TV addicted person and addicted by propaganda. She has all these different views of what's going on in Ukraine, but because of me and because of our discussions, she thinks that this war is crazy and this is a real war. And she called me and said, so do you know what was writing at this piece of paper, because it was like English language, no war, and I just translated it to her, and she said, yes, because it shouldn't be any war. It shouldn't be any war. We were fighting because during the Second World War, she was, I think, 12 years old, and she was afraid of being killed by Nazis. She remembered all that stuff, and she said to me, you know, I am alive because we were fighting for a peaceful sky. And this is the crazy reality that you need to fight against. She said to me that you need to fight against this war. But when she asked me, what do you think, is this the real feelings of Marina Ovsyannikova, or she was paid by anybody? So I started to think, okay, so where did you get this information? I mean, who said, like, who did say like that? I mean, what is the point of view though? It was her like feelings, her sensitivity, her reaction on what's going on. And it was a lot of widespreading of information that Marina Ovsyannikova was paid by anybody from outside. It was in my own country, in Ukraine. It was said that it was organized to to use the new angle and to hide all the discussions about what's going on in Ukraine, and to, you know, like reframe all this stuff to what Ovsyannikova did. And she had a lot of attention, and that's why nobody discussed the situation in Ukraine at all. And it is really tough, because what we need to change in terms of propaganda is to realize that we are now in this fake information world. There's a lot of fakes around us, and we need to fix the truth. And the truth is like that. This war is war. Marina Ovsyannikova did all the stuff because she would like to stand up against this war. Also, 70% of people who were asked about this war in my own country answered, we are for the war. I think it's a fake, because many people afraid of being de-anonymized when they answered all these polls, and they answered how they presume to answer or assume to answer, like, yeah, to answer. For example, they think that if they have their opinion that this war is war and it should be ended, they will be punished by our official authorities. So they answer that, yeah, okay, so this war is a special operation, and just get out from here. Just don't ask me again. And I think that among the 70% of our population, our citizens who answered these polls, 30 or 40%, they can change their opinion if you ask them face to face without any press around, or, I don't know, pressure from our official authorities. And that's why we need to show them that we are the power. So now they feel like we are the minority, that we have a huge lack of resources, so we are hated, or this is a high rate of hatred from the Ukrainian side, and it's not true. You see, Yulia, she is my huge friend. I love her very much, as I love my relatives. And what we need to underline is that this is sisterhood. And of course, this is our fault. I mean, our fault that we are not beaten against this regime very effectively for the whole of the life period of this regime. But we tried to do that, and we are trying to do that. And we need to be united and to have a lot of resources to show up and to help some project to widespread the information that we are the power, we are really vocal.
Thank you, Alyona. Yulia, please.
Yes, Alyona, thank you. I totally agree with you. I just a short remark regarding this question: what is already done and what should be done. Really, the level of hatred is huge and is being accumulated from all the sides, and it is very hard even to push the peacemaking initiatives, because when people are being killed and when all this is showed all the time, you know, it is hard to control your level of hatred, which is absolutely you know, that's how we are built. So this is a real emotion. So I think it's important to start not that publicly maybe but from the real deeds, and when showing that it is a real power, that real things are done, real initiatives are brought, this will bring this level of hatred down, and people will believe in it, because really a lot of girls, women are uniting despite of their nationality and country of origin. So that's the way, I think, from maybe doing small things to big things, you know, step by step building up this, and maybe not talking that much but doing. And I want to say that really in Ukraine there is a huge number of initiatives aimed to help refugees, aimed to help, because again, what I said, women mostly suffering from the war, and 1.4 million kids. And I assume that around 1 million of women who Ukrainian refugee who carry all this on their shoulders. So yeah, that's my point on how I think it should be built, and all these initiatives, they can be united because there is a lot of really nice cool stuff around the world, and so it should be gathered on some kind of a platform, and big things can be done this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Yulia. And reminder to our audience that you can submit questions by email to kennan@wilsoncenter.org, tweet at Kennan Institute, or write on our Facebook page. Kate Antanovich sent in a question that I'll modify just a bit, but to the points that were made about joining in initiatives, the work that can be done, what is your guidance, or what would you say, particularly given the strict gender roles that exist still in countries like Russia and Belarus, in terms of living in a patriarchal society, maybe having less power and feeling in general, maybe in the average household, not able to use your voice or to speak up, or to use the example of preventing your husbands and sons from going to war, something like that. How can that be overcome, or what do you advise to overcome that issue in your countries? Anyone want to start with that one?
Well, I can start. It's a very difficult advice. I can tell you that, I wouldn't push anybody to say, do that or do this, because it's really individual choice. And the truth is that the space is very severely suppressed, and it's very difficult. I think in this situation, what it is important is to understand that, at least among my friends, what I hear and people that I know, they do not support it. They are looking for ways to express themselves. But unfortunately, this, it's all very limited. I think the only thing is, I agree with what other participants here were talking about, is we need to create more space where we can talk among ourselves, where there is more truth available to people in Russia and Belarus. And I think supporting civil society and women's movements in these countries are very critical. I've been building a movement from the very beginning 30 years ago. I know what it is when I was working on a helpline alone for a year, because I just didn't know any other activists who would be interested. So I think it is very important to sustain what can be sustained. And it can be sustained only with truth and solidarity.
Thank you, Marina. Elisa?
So I would like to add a simple remark that that's the point of the whole sisterhood. It's not only in the family that a wife, a mother can stop loved ones from going into war, but nonsense. And that's why we all need to speak up against it and to stop. Like, if we're talking about Belarus, and now it's like a huge point of like integration with Russia or going into a war on the Russian side, but there is no choice. You gotta surrender. Once you're in Ukraine, you gotta surrender. You have to, if you have to fight, you gotta fight on the Ukrainian side against the aggressor. But there is no way. Like, our women, sometimes they cannot speak up. It's like, it's the whole community that it's like, it's a root of community, society in our country that needs to be reviewed, and it needs to be built differently. But it's just like, that's why all of us need to speak up and tell the truth, like to stop this war, to surrender, especially surrender, to put the weapons down, everything. And it's not like, if they don't listen to your family, all of us have to be unified to tell them to surrender. That's like if there is nothing to fight against, there will be no war. And it's just like, my whole point is, you have to speak up and you have to tell them not to go to it. Like, it's better to be in jail than being dead, or that's my whole point. There is nothing to fight for or against. We will never fight against Ukrainian people because this war has no sense to any other countries but Putin, one person, Putin. That's it.
Thank you very much, Elisa. I am also wondering if you would like to share some of the grassroots movements that are possible, the grassroots initiatives that, for those who are watching who are curious as to how they can help and how they can support, what can be done now to help in a way for the anti-war movement. Marina, please.
I'm sorry, a little bit later, but I want to continue Alena's speech because we will not be able to change this monster who support the war. But a very large number of people simply doubt and don't know who and what to believe. And we involve psychologists, specialists, and sociologists to find the right words and actions so that they can hear us. And women are great communicators. So this is our main task now, I think.
Great, thank you.
And I would like to underline that after that discussion, we will launch a special page in which we will have the list of initiatives, grassroots initiatives you can support, and also the principles or like so-called resolution that we will have for what we are fighting for. Our main goal is to collect as much initiatives as we have around us, to make it more highlighted for everybody, to fulfill them with a lot of the resources, and also to help our sisterhood movement with the documents when they are the refugees or they are the political immigrants, or they were highly oppressed and they decided to live in our own countries. For example, I have more than 20 very, very active females who are the leaders, and they are now in Russia, and they're highly oppressed, but they decided not to move out from Russia because their answers were, this is our motherland. We are the mothers of our kids. We are the daughters of our fathers and our mothers. We are here because we need to fight here, and also we need to fight to help the people who fled and who live now abroad, especially females with kids, because it is really hard if you have your kid, because you should manage all this crazy stuff. And we have such examples here among our speakers as Marina or Julia. They have their kids and they need first to organize their safety space for their kids. And after that, they can be free to act independently and to help other females. So this is our major stuff. And we will launch this special page because this is why we are here.
Go ahead, Marina.
Yeah, I would like to also add, as I said, that I'm advocating for a new global framework to end violence against women and girls. And as I said, it's a part of the bigger picture of all the forms of violence that exist on earth against women and girls. And if you want to learn about that, you can go to the website. I'll put it in the chat also. It's called www.everywoman.org. And, the thing is that violence against women will not stop by itself. It will take all of us to advocate for that, and all women on earth, to really make sure that our right to live without all forms of violence, and for frontline activists to be protected, that it will be not just written, but implemented.
Thank you very much. Anyone else on grassroots efforts or things that we can do to be supportive? I'm also wondering, Yulia, in terms of, I know that you've had to leave Ukraine since the war began. What is the general mood, and what is it in terms of this women's movement? Has it been active in your diaspora communities since leaving Ukraine, and how they received this anti-war message?
I traveled the world, and I lived previously in 6 or 7 countries, but this is the first time I have to enter the country where I am. It's one of the European countries, in a status of refugee. And it is very sad and miserable to be in that role. And I have a 6-year-old kid again. So this was a hard choice for me. It was a choice of a mother, first of all, of being a mother. And it's like being torn up between the love to your country, to your nation, to your motherland, and love to your child, and protecting your child. And this is a hard choice that millions of mothers have to make right now. I must say that the whole world is being very supportive, as it is very important. It is crucial to feel that you are being supported, because there is, when you're leaving everything behind, you only have like new friends, new people who are greeting you. And when you are in need and you leave everything behind, like all you had, and just switching from everything to zero and starting all over with a small kid in your hands, is something that I would never want anyone to experience. This truly has been the hardest period of my life. I'm 37 years old, and I've seen things, and I wish I will never have to experience it again. Indeed, a lot is being done, and I think that all Ukrainian girls all over the world, they are helping from wherever they are, from UK, from Dubai, from France, humanitarian help, speaking to politicians, using their old connections, rallying the streets, like my brother did in Paris with his family. They were standing for 3 days with small kids on the rallies, helping, calling, texting, funding, asking what you need. And this is, well, that's how it works. People are providing free legal help. People are providing free psychological help. So people are doing like free haircuts. So what I'm talking about, it's important. That's about the small steps every one of us can make at their position. Yeah, how to help? It's easy. Just do what you usually do, but do it. Don't stop doing it. And and I think that many hearts have opened during this war. And so indeed, there is a lot to that can be implemented, and I believe that it should be organized, and I believe that this platform could could be this platform for organizing all these initiatives.
Thank you very much. We received a question about discussing or talking with feminist organizations or anti-war organizations. The example was in Yugoslavia, but my question to kind of modify that a bit is there a model that that you found has been really effective as you structure your anti-war movements and your goals that you're hoping will be just as effective in this case? Is there a model that you think worked particularly well? Or is this something that, given the technology, given the situation, you've had to form this movement kind of independently of what has happened in the past?
You know, Victoria, I think we can't open up any structured ideas of how do we need to widespread our sisterhood movement because of the situation in our two countries. If we disclose the information, how we are organized, we can be punished or threatened or arrested or followed by Russian authorities, agencies and representatives. And as we are not afraid of that, a lot of people in our movement, I mean, this is not a vertical movement, you know, this is like a horizontal one. There is no any leader, so we are all together. We all, our faces are the faces of this movement, but we can't describe what technology stuff or what ideas do we have openly to protect our members and our sisters.
I completely understand. Okay, we're getting toward the end of our time, but before we conclude, I wanted to make sure that you all each had a moment to just wrap up with final remarks. I know we've received several questions regarding what women and anyone in Europe and the United States can do specifically to support your efforts. I know you've touched on it as well, but if you'd each like to just go around with just some final remarks before we close for today. Elisa, would you like to begin?
Yes, I just want to say thank you for your time. And just yesterday, I just want to finish with this. So a girl from Belarusian family in the Czech Republic, she had been saving money for a drone for a long time, and she sent it to the Ukrainians instead. And she wrote her name, and she sent in this drone, and it's her favorite one. And she sent in, "You needed more. I want you all to be alive. And please, when you drive all the fascists out of Ukraine, then liberate my Belarus too." So I think this little girl gave the best answer of what can be done. And it's like to speak up, sign petitions, and especially the most important thing, it's be kind to refugees and to people who were directly affected by this war, and helping to find housings, any legal help, advice regarding like temporary protective status that was created right now for those who are already here, and advice on seeking jobs, applying for work permits, basically anything that most of us were facing where we just came here. So I think that's the most important part, to be kind to refugees and help them with anything.
Thank you very much, Elisa. Marina Mantusova, any final remarks for you?
I just want to thank you, every woman here, for your work, for your caring. And I think if women rule the world, there will be not such bullshit.
Thank you, Marina. Aliona, final remarks?
Yeah, I totally agree with Marina. So we need women as leaders of our countries for 100%. And we need to fight for that in our political stuff. So we were fighting and we will be fighting. Also, I think that we need this global women treaty that Marina is advocated now. And we need to be a part of this movement to support this treaty and to do our best to set up this treaty. and to help to proceed all this crazy, like bureaucratical stuff. And I think that, as I mentioned earlier, we will launch a special page. We will translate it into English, in which we will have the steps, like helpful steps we need to do to change all the situation. And especially, I think that we will focus on this documentary stuff, this temporary status for refugees and migrants and political migrants and activists that Marina mentioned before from our countries too. And also Yelena mentioned it for the journalists, because we need to be vocal and we need to create our, like new society. Why do we need this new society of women, and mostly consisted of women? Because we think that women can change the world now. As we are really communicative, we use our social media platforms, and also we use our like all of our contacts to widespread the information that we need to stop it, and we need to change 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and other stuff like that. And also we will mark there our petition links, and you can sign it up because it is really helpful. We need to collect as much voices as we can, as more signatures as we can, to show up that not just because we think that more signature means that something changed in the future, but to show that we are the power. That 100,000 signatures and 1 million signatures means huge difference.
Excellent. And we'll work with you to make sure that we have those petitions available too. Marina, final thoughts from you, Marina Piskakova-Parker.
Yes. First of all, I also want to thank Wilson Center, you, Victoria, and each of my sisters here at the panel for bravery, for all the work. But I also want to say that the world we live in now, we live in a moment of choice. It's really a choice between how much we will continue investing in wars, or how much we will continue and start maybe investing in building different societies. And I think this is really a moment when we as humanity need to look differently at how we are making choices and where we put our responsibilities in. And violence against women that exists for thousands of years is one of the examples of wrong choices for our civilization. And I think wars and violence against women are wrong choices that we really need seriously to rethink now.
Absolutely. And then finally, Yulia, any final remarks from you?
I highly believe in the power, in the peacemaking power. I believe in negotiations because the war, there are no winning sides in war. The countries will be demolished if this continues. And so I believe there will be a compromise reached, but it's important to understand that Ukrainians are fighting for their land. We are fighting for our lives. The enemy intruded on our land, and we will stand till the end. We will not give up. And people who come to kill us will be killed. That's the truth which is. So I believe the compromise should be reached, that the politics voices will be heard, and there will be some kind of solution. And I believe that we should be part of it, really, our voices, and I will do my part. And I'm grateful to Alona for inviting me here, for making this happen. And I truly respect and love you as well as a friend, although we are on the same side with you right now, not on the different. And yes, and find alternative channels for the truth, for the information. Girls in Russia and Belarus It's hard, but I'm sure we'll find a solution for that, for the truth to be heard, and speak up, because as Dante Alighieri said, the hottest places in hell are for those who in the hard times held a neutral position. So make the right choice, speak up right. Героям слава.
Thank you so much, Yulia, and thank you to all of you for joining us today, for your very brave and strong and powerful testimonies. Thank you to the Maternal Health Initiative and the Global Europe Program at the Wilson Center for co-sponsoring this event. And please visit our website to stay up to date with upcoming events and publications. You can find more information on our Women's Initiative and coverage on women in Eurasia on our website as well. And you can find all of the Wilson Center's Ukraine coverage in one place on the Hindsight Upfront Ukraine collection page. Again, thank you to all of you for just extremely powerful, extremely impactful conversation today. And I wish you all the best of luck. See you next time.